Will we see an eviction surge in October? Let's have a look. Good morning, everyone. Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Still working through my morning coffee, rather fast to be honest, and I thought we'd have a look at this article from Domain discussing, well, the rent eviction cliff, or the fears that people have of an eviction surge in October. Now, do you think it will happen when this memorandum is removed? Honestly, I would bet money that you would be stupid to. The only people that are going to get evicted are probably ones that were either borderline cases, and this is enough to push them out, or you wanted to get rid of anyway. Because, well, right now, if you're a property owner and you've got a tenant in there, it would be insane to not try and reach an arrangement to keep them in. If they've hit tough times, but they've been a good tenant, a good person taking care of your property, you want to do what you can to keep them in and work together to build that relationship. Because, well, it's a renter's market right now. There's going to be a lot of competition out there. You're having all the Airbnb properties, which suddenly have, a reduced demand, so they're flooding onto the market. You've got hopes that student accommodation is going to come back in January when they open up the borders again. We'll have to see. They may start flooding onto the long-term market. You've got people getting discounts of about $100 a week, down from $500 to $400, even more, significant discounts on their rent as they're negotiating. So, will there be a flood of evictions? I would be surprised, but then again, people can be pretty stupid and pig-headed and stubborn. Maybe some landlords just can't afford to keep the properties. Maybe they've stretched themselves much too thin. Maybe they're rent vesting and have negative geared a property, and then they're only paying the interest only, and all of a sudden reality is hitting and they're too stupid to realize that they have to let it go. But they go, no, kick them out, get me someone that'll pay me the rent. So the property managers, who some consider heroes, are stuck between a rock and a hard place. Maybe for the first time they're actually having to work for their money, but that's just someone who's from a different profession looking from the outside in. I'm sure it's heroic and hard. So let's have a look at this, guys. Renters still fear the economic cliff despite JobKeeper, JobSeeker, and mortgage relief extensions. The looming economic cliff is still striking fear into the heart of renters despite moves from the federal government and lenders to extend support to Australians left unemployed by the pandemic crisis. See, here's the thing. How long can they kick this can down the road? Fundamentally, how long do you think they can do it? Till March? They're going to go till the end of next year. When will the point be reached when the banks start saying, no, we can't afford to do it anymore? We're going to have to start foreclosing. I think it's going to already start happening after January. People, or even earlier, after October, people will start getting a tap on the shoulder going, you need to sell. You've got until March. Sell. Get out of this debt now. What do you think? Let us know in the comments if you've heard of that. We'll have to keep our ears open to see if that is happening. So no moves have been made to extend the pandemic-era memorandum on rental evictions beyond October in any state or territory, in contrast to major banks' plans to allow some home owners to extend 4 months to start repaying deferred mortgages. While income support through JobKeeper and Seeker will be extended, it will be at a lower level, and tenants, their advocates, and experts say this will plunge more households into rental stress. Experts are calling for an extension to the memorandum, but warn even that may not be enough to help vulnerable tenants. Better Renting Director Joel Dignam said despite the measures in place to protect renters, including rent reduction negotiation frameworks and the eviction freeze, renters were already falling through the cracks. There's an ANU survey from May that found that of renters, about 1 in 4 were unable to pay their rent on time. It's 25%. Some of them may have not been able to make that up, or may have been able to make that up, but there's a large amount of people who have a debt building up. So what do people do? They need to cut costs. We've started to see this happening. People are getting out of their rental properties. They're either moving back home, they're moving with family, they're consolidating. They're finding ways to save money. They're moving to cheaper properties now. The crazy thing would be, and I bet you some people have done it sadly, is taken the bonus that they're getting from JobSeeker and upgraded their property. Can you see that happening? With an expectation for renters to pay back a shortfall in their rent, landlords might choose to evict their struggling tenants when the eviction ban was up, he said. Melbourne renter Harrison Canton shared a household, has tried and failed twice to get a rent decrease since the pandemic began. Of the 4 tenants, 2 have been forced onto JobSeeker, which will be cut to $815 a fortnight. In September, and another was planning on leaving in a month. It'll just come down to cheaper food and shops. We'll have to come up with an extra $600 to $700 a month together, he said. I think it'll entice some people to look into their super, but it depends on how dire it is when it comes down to the crunch. Well, you're going to have to move, mate. You're going to have to move. You're going to get another person in. You're going to have to move. Maybe get some people bunking. Or maybe just, this is the thing. You need to call the bluff with the landlord. If they're not going to give you a discount, you've got to be able to move. Although maybe he can't. Maybe he's locked down. Maybe the state won't let him move. Good times in Melbourne, everyone. Good times. University of Sydney urban planner and policy analyst Professor Nicole Guerin applauded the Tasmanian and ACT governments, which already moved to extend their relatively shorter freezes on evictions to September and October respectively, and called on other states to follow suit. We need an extension to the memorandum, but the memorandum itself is providing very light protection to tenants in the private rental sector. Tenants Union of New South Wales Senior Policy Officer Leo Patterson-Ross said while governments should extend the memorandum on evictions beyond September, the problem wasn't evictions, but affordability and negotiation processes. Well, this is the thing. You've got so many people who are landlords here in Australia that are probably at the wall themselves. Some of them are probably worse off than their tenants. I was talking to a friend the other day, and he's renting, and he's got a nice little duplex up on the north side. And I said, "Oh, have you got a discount?" He goes, "No, we don't need it. Work is good. We're busy." He's in the insurance game. He's doing well, which is great. It's encouraging to hear good stories. But he said, "No, we didn't ask for a reduction. When a renewal comes up, we'll mention it then, how we're not, putting pressure on it." I mean, you'd be crazy to try and put up the rent now. You'd be crazy to try and put up the rent in this current market. I mean, that'd be insane. The only reason you could probably get away with it would be because it's reduced, the inconvenience of moving. But you'd probably get a lot of, you wouldn't get a very good relationship with your tenant, would you? There's a lot of talk now of rent prices falling, and people who have moved aren't moving to a better deal. They're moving back in with mum, dad, or friends, he said. For places like Sydney, we're seeing people who have left their expensive area because they can't afford them anymore, even after negotiating. Professor Guerin added that the problem with the memorandum was that the onus on negotiation on reduced rents was on the tenants. What's wrong with that? For once, we have something where people have to take individual responsibility. Is that a bad thing? I guess it is. We constantly, if you encourage even people to take individual responsibility, you're an advocate for victim blaming. That's how it feels. That's how it feels. They are in a vulnerable position, need a rent reduction or release, so they don't have many options available to them if they're unsuccessful in the negotiation. Yeah, but the landlord may also be in a vulnerable position. Most of these people are just average Australians. And you've got to understand, we're property obsessed here. Every idiot thinks the only way to make a fortune is just to pile it into real estate. And in some ways, it's easier than having to deal with all the problems of starting a business and just the complexities there. The red tape you have to jump through here in Australia to start up a business, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. And now, if you make a mistake in employing people, you could go to jail in Queensland. It just passed in. So come on. There's a reason why everything's shoved into property. People negative gear it. They use it to mitigate the burden that the state throws on them. I mean, and the state loves that because it gets more money through stamp duty. So, how many people that are investing in property aren't actually making a profit? In Victoria, the Renters and Housing Union organiser Irini Tolslidis Noyce, ETN, said she was providing support to renters who still feared the ban lifting despite ongoing support. Renters are now facing deferred debt, and that will come all at once at the end of the eviction memorandum, she said. We're being bled dry and facing homelessness when we're being told to stay at home. Kicking the can down the road until September has been irresponsibly hopeful. Here's the thing as well. How many of these people don't even have a reserve? You know, I mean, when did it come? When did it become acceptable to live week to week here in Australia? I think it was it in the 80s, guys? Was it in the 90s? What did you think back to your education here in Australia? What did we learn? What did we learn? I can't remember. You know, maybe this is the lesson the generation has to encounter. Maybe this is the never again moment people are going to have. And some people will walk away from this and really, you know, wake up. And while banks have indicated the mortgage relief will be extended, they had hedged by warning they might pressure over-leveraged borrowers, which Charter Kramer residential director Andy Zigomanis said could mean time would be up for landlords with struggling tenants. It does get to a point where push will come to shove. You can't keep giving them a memorandum indefinitely, he said. The landlord or owner may be quietly pressured to sell their properties. Exactly. And here we go. If you need to sell a property and you've got a struggling tenant in there that can't pay the rent, what do you think that's going to do for the property value? If you're forced to sell, you'll kick them out. You'll stop caring. The Queensland, Victorian and New South Wales government were asked by Domain if they would extend their memorandums. Only Queensland responded saying the state would continue to watch the situation and reassess. So what do you think, everyone? Are we going to start seeing a flood of evictions? While I said, you know, I don't expect to see them, you will get people. You will get people who are forced to sell, who need to get those people out of their properties. Would you buy a property, an investment property, even in this market, I mean, if you're going to, or would you buy it as a home if there's someone in there that can't be evicted? What's that going to do for the valuation of the property, everyone? Will it even make it worth anything? Let us know your opinions in the comments below. Thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content, there are a few ways you can. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can use our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Kucoin. You can buy our merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next episode.